Hi, this is Ron here in Tokyo, and these are some of the stories that we're following. First up is the little town in the Ukraine that's fought off the Russian army by mobilizing together. So that's going to be brought to you by the BBC, and we're going to follow that story.
Heavy fighting is continuing in many parts of the country, but our first report tonight comes from the southern town of Voznesensk, where troops and a small population of just 35,000 people have seen off an attack by the Russian army. Our correspondent, Andrew Harding, has been there. In war, a single bridge can sometimes make all the difference. A bridge and a town determined to keep it from the enemy. And that's what happened here in Voznesensk, a quiet farming community that stood its ground. Security cameras captured the moment Russian tanks roared into town, determined to seize the bridge and beyond it, a clear road across southern Ukraine. For the locals were already setting a trap, all hands on deck, blocking off roads, guiding the Russians into an ambush. A local shopkeeper, Alexander, filmed himself on the front lines. You little beauties, he shouts. It was a colossal effort by the whole town. We used hunting rifles, people threw bricks, old women loaded sandbags. The Russians didn't know where to look. I've never seen the community come together like that. As the invaders approached the bridge, the locals blew it up. At which point, these British anti-tank weapons played a decisive role. The Ukrainians destroyed almost every Russian vehicle, denying them the chance to seize the town and to rebuild the bridge. Tank tracks still mark Svetlana Nikolaevna's garden. Our outhouse took a direct hit. She says the Russians took 2 Ukrainian soldiers prisoner in there, and she feared they were going to kill them in the battle got out of hand. That's the blood of Russian soldiers who were sheltering in her house. While she hid in a cellar, her cottage became a Russian field hospital.
They left at night in such a hurry. They left almost everything behind. They just took their dead and wounded.
It may be Russia's heaviest defeat so far, their troops retreating far to the east. This town, this community achieved something remarkable, but we need to put it in perspective. This war is only a few weeks old, and the Russians will almost certainly be back with more soldiers and a lot more firepower. Not surprisingly, the town hall is crowded with people wanting help getting out of Voznesensk. Others go straight to the 32-year-old mayor. He's well guarded these days, brimming with confidence, but realistic about what lies ahead. We know we can't win here without more anti-tank weapons, says Evgeny Velichko. We're grateful for Western supplies, but we need more. We know the Russians will be back. Back for the bridge, and back for the town that stood its ground. Andrew Harding, BBC News, in Voznesensk, southern Ukraine.
That's an amazing story. Next, we're going to join a story. It's with a Canadian ex-Canadian armed trooper sniper who decided to join the war in the Ukraine and work with the Ukrainians to help. And he was pronounced dead by rumor, I guess. So he spoke with the CBC explaining why he's not dead. So this is a great story. His name is Wally. Again, he's an ex-military officer from the Canadian Forces, and he decided to volunteer to go to the Ukraine, and this is going to be his story.
That's what I'm saying. And pretty much was the last person to learn about my death. So when I was on the front line without my cell phone, obviously for security reason, because the frequency and such can be located. And so the truth is sometimes can be brutal or just boring. And this time it was just boring. The truth was that my cell phone was just not with me. It was turned off on a remote base. I was on the front line. Yes, it was dangerous though, but I was alive, not a single scratch.
That's great, and quite amazing that he was able to survive that situation. And there's a lot of other stories coming out of the war, so we're going to follow some of those. And next, we're going to talk to a survivor from Mariupol and get his opinion about what's going on. He escaped 3 days ago, and he's also speaking with the CBC. We're going to join him for this interview.
You were feeling, and your family and other people there while all of this was going on? What was the mood?
We were hoping that Ukraine will win, or some negotiations will start and something, the war will stop. But when we lost our electricity, there were 3 or 4 days without any connection to internet, and we were sitting just under the shelling, and we didn't know what was happening, like who is winning, and it was really terrible.
And what was it like getting out of the city? What's that journey like?
Well, like three days ago, we jumped into the car and we ran out of the city. It was that day. I remember a lot of cars, like thousands of cars. If I'm not mistaken, that day maybe 3,000 or 4,000 of cars left the city at the morning. It was terrible traffic under the shelling. It was a seaside of the city, and we were driving, and we hear a lot of rockets just flying over us.
And as you got further west, did it get safer, or did you feel in danger the whole time?
Well, honestly, I like before this interview, like before, I heard some noise from the street, and I was just a little bit worried what's happening here. Yeah, but where I'm now, it's safer, all safer. But at this moment, Ukraine is not a safe place for Ukrainian citizen, and it is really bad.
And Arthur, one last question. What's next for you and your family?
Well, we will stay here, I guess. We will hope that this war will end. And I want to say that, like, all of our country is really happy and appreciate all of this, all of the efforts of the West.
I so appreciate that you've stayed up late to speak with us.
Happy and appreciate all of this, all of the efforts of the West.
I so late to speak with us tonight, and I wish you.
The next story is going to follow the refugees as they're fleeing the Ukraine and Kyiv, and what the impact of the war has been on them as they reach Warsaw and other cities. So we're going to follow this story with the CBC.
Kind of mercy mission, bringing desperate people from the south to Lviv. 8 mums, 10 kids crammed into a train compartment meant for 4. Yulia's home city, Polohay, is now occupied by Russian troops. What's it like in the city? They bombed everything. 60% of people have left. There's nothing left behind. No kindergartens, schools, post offices. She left after her neighbor's house was struck by a bomb 2 days ago. We were hoping not to leave our home. My parents are there and pets. It's very hard to leave everything behind. To the southeast, there is no relief in Mariupol. street-to-street fighting with Russian troops, and Ukraine says 2 new powerful bombs hit the besieged city, igniting fires.
You should understand that at least each 15 or 20 minutes, bombs are dropped to my city. A lot of death, a lot of crying, a lot of awful war crimes.
Kyiv is under a curfew. Ukraine claims its forces recaptured an area just west of the capital. Black smoke is rising over the city. Ukraine's president took his plea for more pressure on Russia to Italy's parliament.
Робити все, що можливо, щоб забезпечити мир. Це війна, яку Росія готувала давно.
But as the newly arrived wait for a tram, another air raid siren, traumatizing for this group. I thought I was sheltered from all that. I just want to run away somewhere where nothing like this happens. Why these sirens here, she asks, with no answer. Tonight, longtime Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov summarized Putin's resolve, saying he intends to make the world listen to Russia's concerns. And Peskov refused to rule out that the president would ever use nuclear arms to achieve his goals. Susan.
Wow. So that's a big problem that there's been talk about nuclear weapons being used. And of course, governments in Russia said they're not going to use them, but we don't know what's going to happen. So chemical weapons are becoming a big problem, or the talk of chemical weapons and nuclear weapons. Russia said that they won't do it unless they're backed into a corner or they feel Russian livelihood is threatened. And that probably means if the West directly gets involved, NATO forces in Poland and other bordering countries get involved in the war directly, then Russia will feel that it's in a corner and might threaten with nuclear weapons. So there's already been indirect threats. Nobody's allowed to fly over Russian airspace, so all air traffic has been rerouted. So we're going to follow another story.
Yaroslava Shumik is trying to create some kind of normal. But the pain of her abrupt departure from Kyiv is raw. Her 3-year-old son keeps asking for his father.
And he was crying for the dad. And I knew that it will be for a very long time that I will not have an answer when he will see him.
Hugs and puzzles are what get them through the days. And the help of this Polish couple who opened the doors of their small apartment without a second thought.
Having the history like Poland have, knowing a lot about what happened to people at World War II, then we sympathized immediately and we wanted to help as much as we could.
They barely had time to prepare before they were paired with their guests. That's how desperately this capital city is trying to absorb a sudden spike in population, 20% in a few short weeks. There's an outpouring of support for Ukraine, but volunteers are stretched thin, and Warsaw is heaving from the strain. At the country's largest stadium, a crush of refugees wait anxiously. A full day outside, only to get a wristband to wait again inside for Polish identity papers, to work, access healthcare, and go to school in their temporary landing spot. It's so hard, Tatiana says, wrangling restless children and standing in line.
Here at the Canadian Embassy in Warsaw, there's another long line. Weary Ukrainians waiting to give their biometrics, fingerprints, and photos to get the okay to go to Canada.
It's ahead of our time.
It's slow going.
We came and we saw this huge line and a lot of chaos up front where people are trying to cut in because, livelihood is at stake.
And it's only the start of a long process to alleviate the weight of so many refugees converging on Poland. Warsaw's mayor has been pleading for more help from countries like Canada.
I would simply say as quickly as possible and with minimum red tape.
But the weight of the war is harder to erase for a mother running on instinct.
I saved my babies. Now I need to make the other step, how to live, what to earn, to find a job. So,
as daunting as that may sound, she says that's the easy part.
She can control it, unlike the explosions back home. Salima Shivji, CBC News, Warsaw.
That was a big situation that's happening in Warsaw, where families, what's quite amazing is families showed up the train stations and with signs saying in possibly in Ukraine, we can take you in, or a place to stay. So it's really nice of the Polish people, but Japan, Canada, other countries have to find a way to get supplies to the Ukraine. And one of the stories that we were following in the CBC had a church that raised a lot of money, but they don't have the money to send the products over to the Ukraine. That's been another problem, but it's a good problem that could have a solution. So we can see if we can follow that story.
The only challenge we have right now is actually how to deliver it to Ukraine. We have about 40 tons of goods in our in warehouse in Saint Laurent, where we also, one of the Ukrainians refer us this place, and we keep store the goods, the access of the goods, because we can't keep everything in the church. If you look around, that's for the last, I would say 4 days, all that. So we're getting crazy amount of stuff. The cost to ship was too expensive. We're a non-profit organization. We don't own any money to pay for it. Then we partner with a company in Nova Scotia that's the owners, they're also Ukrainians, and they want to help. And when they send the plane to Ukraine and have some space, they let us, they pick up their cost from here, bring it to Halifax and ship from Halifax. So they give us some space. We ship 2 planes like that. All this help, it goes to Ukraine. We ship it to Poland. From Poland, it goes to Lviv region. And from there, it's distributed to where it's needed in Ukraine. People that cannot get out of Ukraine. We're getting a lot of donations, people bringing stuff from food to clothes to hygienic products. Some people willing to donate money. A lot of people, as you can see, willing to donate time, because we sort everything, make sure that food goes to food, everything is properly marked, so it's easy for customs to identify the goods if they have to verify. I live here for 12 years in Quebec. I came here with my husband, and I have 2 kids, but all my family is back home. So, it's still your home country. And it hurts when you see how it's turning into ash. We see that in the news, and it hurts when you don't know what's going to be tomorrow, when it's going to end, if everybody will be alive, if they're going to have future. What's overwhelming, it's not even that we're getting those packages here. What's overwhelming, that we follow close friends and family, and we don't know if they're going to answer the phone every day. That's overwhelming. And we're doing all that just to show our support. That's the least we can do.
Quite amazing. Quite amazing. So as you can see, there are lots of ways to help. We've had some links in our sites there was up to 17 donation platforms that you can donate. Local churches throughout Canada and the US and Europe are taking donations. It's just a quick look around to see where can you donate. So we'll try to put some more links. We had, as I said, about 17 links where you can donate. If you can't send goods to a place that's sending it, you can financially help. There's lots of Ukraine agencies and Red Cross Ukraine as well. So please don't be shy about it. And this is Ron in Tokyo, asking you to subscribe and let us know how you're doing and what ways you can help with this war in the Ukraine, in donations, prayers, kind acts. If you're in Europe, you can take in Ukrainian refugees, or in the cities you are living, if there are Ukrainian refugees there, that you can help them adjust to the communities there. All right, thank you. And please let us know any stories that you would like to see. So far, some of the stories have been coming out of France 24. Today, a lot of stories came from CBC, so all rights reserved to them, and other things that we picked up also with BBC and other news organizations. Thank you very much. Again, Ron here in Tokyo.